I'll never forget the sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach one Saturday morning when I had to text my mum and say, I'm sorry, I can't come to family lunch, I have to work. That was the moment that I realized I was on the straight road to burnout if something didn't change, right? If you're anything like me, I love working. I love my clients. I love running a business. And that means that I don't mind working here and there on a weekend. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but that isn't what was happening. I found that nothing in my business would get done if I wasn't working, right? Like, I felt crushed under the weight of responsibility. And if I was sick, for example, well, my clients either had to wait on me or, even worse, I had to actually work while I was sick. There was a huge missing piece in my business. I knew that if I wanted to succeed, I had to create a great client experience. So I went on a journey of figuring that out and what that looked like. And as a result of implementing and testing different things, I was able to then manage 30 clients in 5 hours a week. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the exact 5 steps you need to create a great client experience. But before we dive into it, my name is Hannah. I am a business strategist for service providers, helping you to sell, streamline, and scale your service-based business. If that sounds like you, definitely hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new YouTube video every single week. Okay, so I just want to outline what the 5 steps are, and then I'm going to go into each step in detail with some specific examples from my business. So the first step is lead. The second step is convert. The third step is onboard. The fourth step is deliver. And the fifth step is offboard. And as we're going through each of these steps in detail, I want you to have a think about 2 questions. The first is, where can I add automation to this? And the second is, where can I add customization to this? So I want to talk about those 2 things because I think it's really important. So the first is automation, right? Like, this is where a piece of tech does the task for you. The reason you want this is, I think a lot of the time we think automation diminishes that customization and that personality. But what it actually does is it gives a better client experience because they're able to get an email faster or fill out a form faster or get reminded easier without it having to rely on you. So you want to think about, where can you add automation? The second question, where can you add customization? So what this means is, how can you add customization, right? So it's more of a manual task, but in a way that's actually customized within your workflow. So an example of this is when my birthday comes around, right? I get quite a few emails from different businesses that I'm subscribed to, for example, like a body shop, like body cream shop near me, and they will send out a gift voucher saying, happy birthday, here's a voucher to use in store, right? And so what that does is it adds that level of customization into the client experience so that I feel seen, I feel valued as a customer of theirs, but they're not having to manually send that every time. So you want to look at, how can you add that customization piece, whether it be manual, but how can it be integrated into your workflow so that everyone has that same awesome experience with you. So let's dive into the 5 different steps. So the first step is lead. This step is all about them, putting up their hand to say, yes, I'm interested to learn more about your services. So in this phase, we want to ask the question, how can they find you and easily reach out to you? Like, remember, it's our job to direct them into the funnel that we want them to go into. So the first option is a marketing piece. Let's say it's an Instagram story, right? And you're talking about your services or showing behind the scenes. Then what you want to give them is a very clear call to action word of something to DM you. So for example, it might be, DM me the word VIP to hear more about my services, or DM me the word VIP to see, so that we can have a conversation to see if we would be a good fit. And then from there, you want to lead them to that persuasion action step, which we're going to go through in a moment. The second option is actually talking about that marketing piece, whether it is, Instagram stories, or whether it's a feed post or an email or whatever that is. And then you'll direct them to your services page where it has the information about your services, all the details, testimonials, different things like that. And then from there, the call to action is to fill out an inquiry form. And then from there, you'll then lead them to your persuade action step, which we'll talk about again in a moment. But see how each of those things, you want to add that customization and automation. So the automation piece is, that system of, they fill out the inquiry form or they send you the word, right? Like that's automated. You don't have to get them to do that. But then the customization is maybe it's an automated email after they fill out the inquiry form to say, hey, thanks so much for reaching out. Like super excited to do XYZ, and leading them to that persuasion piece so that you can make it so easy and simple. How do they reach out to you, and what those next steps are? Step number 2 of the client experience is convert. This is all about having a conversation to see if you're a good fit for each other. So obviously there's 2 directions for this, right? Like if you feel you're a good fit for them, how can you assure them that you are the best option? And the other way is if you're not a good fit, how can you still deliver a great client experience? So the first step is choosing where you're going to generate this convert step, right? Where you're going to have this sales conversation. So the most common I see is sales calls for service providers, right? But there's also other options. For example, it could be DM messages back and forth in Instagram or Voxer or Facebook Messenger or something like that. It might be a certain email back and forth, but you just want to look at what makes the most sense for your service and what makes the most sense for the client to get that best information from you. So I would love to hear in the comments below, where do you have your sales conversation? Where would you like to have your sales conversation? And why? So from there, once you've had this sales conversation, the first is if they're a good fit. So if they are a good fit, you want to clearly present your offerings, what that looks like, etc. And then you're going to lead them into the next step, which is sending a proposal so that you can very clearly show them this is all the steps you need to take, have them sign the contract, sign an invoice, then they become a client and you move them into the next phase of the client journey. The important thing here though is you want to customize that experience so that yes, you've had the conversation, you do that, but you want to automate as much of this process as possible because you want to send that proposal, that invoice, that contract straight after this sales conversation. You want to have it automated to the point where you can send that proposal in less than 5 minutes, right? So that it's immediately after that, so that it shows you've got good service and follow-up, right? You can have a timely response to things. And B, it helps them have all the information they need to make an informed decision. And usually they can make it faster because they have all that information right away. I have heard of too many service providers taking days to send proposals. And what it does is it diminishes your credibility and actually hurts that client experience because it's not being given straight away. It's not you leading that fast, effective process. And then if they aren't a good fit, how can you still give great customer service? So for example, maybe someone sends through an inquiry form and you have a look at their answers and you don't really feel a sales call is the best route because they're not a good fit for you in terms of maybe the type of business or the service they're offering or what they're looking for, maybe the date they're looking for if you're a wedding photographer, etc. So you've got to look at if they're not a good fit, how can you give that great experience? So what that looks like is option 1, sending them to a great referral. That is an awesome way of giving great client experience, saying something like, hey, XYZ, this is why we're not a good fit, but I have someone who is a great fit, and give their details for what you're looking for based on what you've said, something along those lines. The other option is to upsell them or downsell them based on what makes sense. So for example, maybe right now they're not a good fit for your monthly retainer package. Well, maybe you have a smaller fee of a setup or something like that to get them on their way, right? So looking at within your business, what makes the most sense as to whether you send them to a referral or whether you send them to another offer within your offer suite. Either way, you can still monetize that, right? Like you can set up a referral partnership where you get X amount back for every referral you send to that person. So there is ways to still monetize something if they're not a good fit. But either way, this step is all about having a really good sales conversation and then sending a proposal to them straight away. And if you don't know how to send a proposal or what that looks like, I do have a video coming up in a few weeks that goes over exactly my process for setting up and sending out a proposal in under 5 minutes as well. So definitely hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss that episode. Okay, the third step of the client experience is onboarding. So there are 2 parts to this. The first part is how can you assure them that they've made the right decision because they've just invested money in you. So you want to have a great experience from this point on to assure them that they are in the right place. And as a bonus, that will give you more referrals if you can have a great onboarding experience. The second part to onboard is how can you get the information you need from them and set up communication streams effectively so that you're ready to start the project or start working together in a way that's set up with a really strong, solid foundation. So what this looks like in my business is I will send an automated email, but it's very customized. It's very in my branding. Like, I'm so excited. We're finally doing this thing. Like, it's adding that language in there to make them feel like they're seen, heard, appreciated, and valued as a customer, as a client, which they are, right? And then the second thing in that email is I give them, a welcome guide and a welcome form. In that questionnaire, I get everything I need, including passwords, main details of their project, what they're looking for, any certain deliverables or things that I need to complete the project. So you want to do that all in one form so that it's very easy to keep track of, and it's reducing that back and forth in emails and missing things, and you don't want that. Fourth step of the client experience is deliver. This is where you're actually completing the project or, doing the work with them on a month-to-month basis. In this section, you really want to ask yourself the question, how can I do this work effectively and professionally? So you want to look at how can you best manage the clients that you have. So for example, when I manage the clients within my business, I use ClickUp, and that's my way of managing where clients are at in their process, creating deliverables, handing homework in. So that's kind of where we do that and manage that and what's worked for me and my team. But you also want to look at, what makes most sense for you. Is there a way you can get, let's say you're a designer, is there a way that you can get approvals faster and easier and more effectively? So just looking at that experience, looking at, let's say you're a photographer and you're doing editing, ask yourself, how could I most effectively cut this editing time down so that I could deliver every gallery within 2 weeks for my clients? Like, asking yourself those questions during this phase is what's going to be most powerful, because that will help you to create workflows and systems to allow you to scale this service, because you're delivering it in a way that is very templated, that is very customized at the same time. And the last step, the fifth step of this video and this client experience is offboarding. So in this step, you want to ask two questions. The first is, how can I thank them for working with me? And two, how can I create a raving fan out of this client so that, you can increase referrals or potentially upsell to other offerings? So the two things I like to do in this offboarding phase is, number one, giving an offboarding email. In this, it has, thanking them for working with me, details of my referral program, and sending any final deliverables. The second thing I do is giving them a thank you gift, an offboarding gift, to say thanks so much for working with me, and really honoring the fact that they invested in you. A company I really like to use for this is Greetabl. At the moment of this recording, it's only available in the US and Canada to send different gifts to, but of course there are so many gifting services out there, but I do love being able to give clients with something as an offboarding thank you for working with you. So if you're feeling a little bit stuck in your services and offerings and what that looks like, then definitely watch this video all about how to identify the different types of services and actually understand and make an informed choice as to what is the best service for you to deliver in this season of life. But I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I cannot wait to hear how you're going to improve your client experience moving forward.